welcome back. It's time for us to now look at Division 2, which after 13 rounds also goes into its final bye of the season. Ramon, Whittlesea is certainly well clear in first place, not without their dramas, it has to be said, in the first 13 rounds of the year. Some massive comebacks in the course of the season, also some close wins against sides much lower down on the ladder. But at this stage, you'd think their minor premierships all theirs. I think certainly in finals, there are a couple of teams who think they might be able to might have the Eagles measure, but at this stage anyway, 12-1, they couldn't have asked for too much more coming back into Division 2.
Yeah, certainly going to expect them to go on and take out the flag this season. I know it's still early days. They have been vulnerable a couple of times. As you mentioned, Fitzroy Stars, North Heidelberg, even Hurst Bridge nearly getting a win there. But overall, when they get their game going, they are quite unstoppable, and I expect them to have a pretty big second half of the year.
You think those come from behind wins actually holds them in better stead going to finals, knowing that they have that belief to win in any situation? Obviously 54 points down against the Stars at three-quarter time, 70 down against North Heidelberg. Going back to round 2, they were down against Mernda at three-quarter time, and even at the weekend, a really tough game against Hurst Bridge where they had to come from behind at three-quarter time to win it. You think that going to finals, even if they were down in the game, they must have that inner belief that they can win in any situation.
I think so. That's certainly going to be in the back of the opposition's mind come the finals, even if they're up by, well, as you said, 12 goals. Hopefully it won't happen, but I'm thinking Whittlesea can come back from any sort of position. So it just goes to show how good they are when they get their team structure going and when they're in form.
I guess on the flip side, it also shows that they can be scored heavily against when they're not at their best. But at this stage, certainly the side to catch. They, as I said, 12 wins and 1 loss. They're 2 games clear of the Fitzroy Stars. In fact, 2.5 games clear of the Fitzroy Stars, who are 9 wins, 3 losses and a draw from the opening 13 games. At the moment, they're 4 points clear in second spot. So you think with that advantage, only a minor percentage advantage at this stage, that their second spot's probably theirs at the moment, almost to lose. You'd think it's been a great start for the Fitzroy Stars. Some of their losses have been by really close margins. We mentioned that loss to the Whittlesea Football Club by 54 points. They actually haven't lost since that day. They had the draw, of course, to North Heidelberg, where they were up early, down by 2 goals really late, and then ended up pinching the 2 points. At this stage, do you see them as potentially the biggest threat to Whittlesea for this year's premiership?
No, I still think North Heidelberg are the biggest threat, although Fitzroy Stars have been really under the radar, I think, for most of the season. They certainly will be a big chance to go and play off the grand final. I'm still going to be sticking with North Heidelberg, but they have had a fantastic season, and hopefully they can go on with it in the second half.
The thing about the Stars that I like is their ability to play is really free-flowing footy. They can an attacking flair, I think. But I think the other element that they've brought into their game is they've got an ability now to, when sides are scoring against them, to bounce back. We saw it a couple of times against South and Rang when things weren't quite going their way. They found a way to get back into the game. Obviously, the exception is the Whittlesea game where they're well in front. But even both times against the Diamond Creek, they were down by pretty decent margins at quarter time. And in the past, perhaps they wouldn't have been able to come back and orchestrate the wins that they have done this year. So certainly getting a stronger edge to their game as well. So many goal kicking options. We're talking about big Paddy Davis in the forward line as well. He's having another great year. Won't win the goal kicking award because Shane Harvey's having such a superb year down in front of the big six at North Heidelberg. But he's kicking heaps of goals throughout the year. Johnny Hayes kicked 6 at the weekend as well. They've got so many players who can go forward and kick a bag and so much X factor about the side as well. So I also think they're a genuine chance to certainly push the Whittlesea Football Club, but also the side you talked about, North Heidelberg, who's in third place. They're 8 wins, 4 losses and a draw, so we're just 4 points behind the Fitzroy Stars. They've obviously beaten the only sides who have beaten Whittlesea this year. They also led them by 70 points second time around and didn't win it, but I still think it gives them great confidence to know that, they've played the Whittlesea twice and they've come away with a win and a loss by 1 point, so they know that they're certainly capable of beating Whittlesea when it matters most. But at this stage of the year, they actually seem to be playing their best football going into the bye, and I think at the weekend had one of their best wins of the year when they defeated Diamond Creek quite comfortably.
Yeah, they did. It was a big win. I believe it was 7 goals in the end. They seem to be just slowly starting to hit their straps in there, and that's probably not good news for the Whittlesea Footy Club, but certainly great news for North Heidelberg. Shane Harvey once again with 9 goals. He's having just an exceptional year. Hopefully he'll get that record. We've been discussing how much it is, so I think he'll end up kicking it. So it's can't wait to see him in action during the finals.
92 goals in 13 rounds for Shane Harvey, a player who does spend a fair bit of time in the midfield as well. So it's a quite remarkable achievement. They've got Mernda in round 14. Can he kick 8 goals there to notch the 100 goals, or will he have to wait the week after? I believe they've got Whittlesea at the Whittlesea Showgrounds in round 15.
I certainly think he'll get the 100 this week without a doubt. So hopefully, he'll get there. Hopefully, may even get down there when the game plays and catch that on camera. It'll be great.
Because Harvey, I guess, takes so much limelight, it's probably overshadowed some of the seasons that some other players are having. Blake Holmes has just fitted straight back into that side. He had an early suspension, but since coming back, he's been in great form, polling heaps of votes in the Coaches Player of the Year award. Passacuso also having a great year. So I think because Harvey plays so well, it just, as you would expect, probably takes a bit of the limelight of what some of the other players are doing, but allows them to fly under the radar. Diamond Creek's moved into 4th place now, 8 wins and 5 losses. They're 6 points away from the top 2, a top 2 spot. So you'd think at this stage they need a lot for them to go right to manage to get back into 2nd spot and get a double chance in the finals. They just seem to have faltered in recent weeks against some of the best opposition. We know they were soundly beaten by Whittlesea. It was a similar story against the Fitzroy Stars, and at the weekend against North Heidelberg. So they haven't been able to quite match it with their fellow top 4, and you think where they're currently standing at 4th is probably an honest reflection of where they actually are, probably just behind that top 3.
Yeah, they have really dropped off. As you mentioned, they were beaten badly against the 3 top sides above them. They seem to have really dropped off. Early in the season, I remember they were all in 2nd place, they're doing really well. All of a sudden, they really seem to drop off, and they want to be careful. I think the 4th spot's secure, but if they don't really, if watch a guard, Moona can quite easily catch them.
It was amazing because when they played Whittlesea, they were actually playing for outright first position, and that result didn't go their way. And within a couple of weeks, they're down to 4th and a long way back behind the top 3. So a lot's gone wrong in a short space of time at the weekend. 13 goals to 2 in the first half they conceded. So Harvey kicks, I think it was 6 in the first quarter, which didn't help the cause, but it's a massive 5 weeks coming up for Diamond Creek. They need to, I guess, not only hang in there, but also find some form going into the finals as well. 5th place is currently taken by the Murder Football Club, which has had a successful start back into Division 2, 6 wins and 7 losses. Their best win for mine is still that win against the North Heidelberg Football Club, where they were down by 5 goals early on and came back and had a fine victory. They've had 3 big wins against South Moraine, which has certainly boosted their percentage along the way. They're still 2 wins behind Diamond Creek. It's going to be hard for them to move inside the top 4. It's more unlikely than likely, but they're still within a chance. But it's certainly been a positive move back into the 2nd division.
Yeah, I think it has been, and look at those crucial losses they had. I remember the one against Laylaw, they had one against Hurstbridge. Had they won those games, geez, where would they be now?
Percentage out of the 5, or out of the 4 if those wins go their way.
I think so, and I think also, they'll look at the end of the season. I think there's still a genuine chance to make the 4. If they can get really their form up, they'll have to beat a couple of sides in that top 4 to get it. So they're not without a chance, and hopefully they can get that and even it up a little bit.
Yeah, in the round 12 game, they defeated South Moraine by 70 points. Always helps when you get to play of the standard of Jai Robinson coming back. He kicked 4 goals. Dave Hutchison kicked 5. So they had a pretty good day against South Moraine. Rowan Davies is having a sensational year and is leading the Coaches Player of the Year award as well. So he, of course, was the competition best and fairest winner in Division 3 last year. So he's just taken that form straight into Division 2. And full credit to Mernda, 6 and 7. I'm sure they would have taken that with open arms if you had have asked them at the start of the year. Hurstbridge is 2 games now behind the Mernda Football Club, 4 wins and 9 losses. They've been a lot more competitive of late against those top sides. Early in the year, they copped some drubbings, and at the weekend, I know it was a loss, but it was arguably their best performance of the year. They led Whittlesea for a great portion of the 3rd quarter, early in the last as well. Went down to a 16-point loss, but speaking to the folk at Whittlesea, you'd almost argue that Hurstbridge was really unlucky to lose that one, and also remembering against North Heidelberg, they were in front for a majority of that game the last time they played it and just couldn't quite get over the line. I think the next big step for them is to again beat a top 4 side. The only top 4 side they've beaten at this stage is the Fitzroy Stars.
Yeah, also remembering they lost that game against South Moraine. They probably don't want me saying that, but it was a pretty bad loss by 40 points, remember that day. And had they defeated North Heidelberg, things might have been a little bit different now. Fortunately, it's not, so I don't think they obviously make the finals now, but certainly a lot to look at for season 2014.
Just looking at their best players on the weekend, and Ben Fennell was in there again. He's a genuine star of the competition. There's no doubting that. Nick Milne's having a good year. Also, Mitch Lucas is another one coming through. He's been named in the best a couple of times of late. So good to see some emerging talent coming out of the Hurstbridge Football Club. And it's been a great move by John O'Manzoni. Such a young list that they had last year. He's come in, added some experience as well. And it's really blending in quite well. I know 4 and 9 might not be indicative of that, but they're certainly moving in the right direction. And in a couple of years' time, I certainly think that the Hurstbridge Footy Club will be playing finals in Division 2, which come a long way after last year just scraping through, and it's certainly a positive future going ahead for the Bridges. Laylaw is in 7th position, 3 wins and 10 losses from the opening 13 games. Do you think now they've got South Moraine covered and they've booked their place in Division 2 next year? But had some big losses along the way. They've had a couple of good wins. Mernda won probably the standout from the pack, but it's certainly been a tough year for the Laylaw Footy Club.
Certainly has been. They have been riddled with a lot of injuries as well. I remember speaking to Mark Ventura a week ago. Said, they've generally got a really good side, but they've just been inconsistent, and they've had, a lot of injuries to all the rest. Seems like they will survive in Division 2 next season, but they'll really need to step it up, I think.
Since, like I said, their top line players are all playing, when they play all together, they play some good footy, and we're talking of the likes of Scott Dowes, Nick Mafilovsky, you mentioned Ventura as well, Scotty Morrison. So their top line players are as good as any in the competition. Probably just falls away a bit, I guess, the fact that they're relying on so much youth to come through. Don't have the depth in the reserve, so they're relying on a lot of under-19s, which probably has hampered the under-19s fortunes as well, because I know they're sitting around the 5th or 6th mark on the ladder, but you think if all those kids were back playing 19s, they'd have a very strong 19s team. So I guess the positive to come out of it is they're giving these kids an opportunity earlier, perhaps than expected, but in years to come, you hope that with having that extra experience, it really fast-tracks their development. Finally, we moved to South Moraine in 8th position, just the 1 win from 13 games so far this year. It hasn't been the year they were hoping for, it has to be said. Pretty tough circumstances, and from here they'd need something special to ensure that they play Division 2 footy next year.
Yeah, I don't think they will be playing Division 2 footy next season. I think it's been a disappointing season for them. The loss against Laylaw by the margin they did lose, I think, was disappointing, knowing that they were playing off for pretty much a relegation spot for next season. The positive side to it, they've got a lot of young talent there, and I think when they do go back down Division 3 next year, I think they're going to be quite successful, possibly rebuild and come back up and give it another crack.
Still, of course, 5 rounds to go. They are 2 games and percentage out. Stranger things have happened. We saw, obviously last year, Lower playing in Division 1, but also Hurstbridge coming from almost as dire a position as well, but certainly plenty of work ahead of the South Moraine Football Club. We'll go to a break. When we come back, we'll take a look at Division 3, which of course there's still football coming up this weekend in Division 3, so we'll have a quick preview of all 3 games and also just go back over the weekend that was in round 13.